Atil, the co-founder and CEO of Kolektif Academy and creator of the complete iOS 13 developer course. Atil teaches more than 260,000 students worldwide, online and offline, on mobile application development and cybersecurity. He created many bestseller courses on Udemy, and he has sold in more than 170 countries. He teaches mobile application development at Bogazici University in Turkey. He is also co-founder and CEO of his educational startup Kolektif Academy. He now lives in Istanbul.
Thank you very much, Reis, and thank you very much for everyone just inviting me here. And also, I know this is 5 p.m. here in Istanbul, but it's very early for most of you. So again, thank you very much for joining me over here. So I'm going to keep it short, by the way. I'm going to keep it like 20, 30 minute tops so that we can have a spare time for Q&A as well. So he made a very good introduction. So I was going to introduce myself, but I believe there is no need to do that right now, but I'm just going to keep it short right now. So let me open my presentation. So I'm actually teaching mobile application development and cybersecurity in many platforms, but mostly on the Udemy. So I have more than 250,000 students online and offline. So I'm teaching in a university, in a college here in Turkey. Of course, you don't know it, but it's supposed to be the best in Turkey. So it's one of the best in Europe as well. And I also have like an educational startup here in Turkey. I'm a co-founder and CEO of that company right now. But I mainly focus on teaching mobile application and cybersecurity, as I said before. And if you want, you can always go to Udemy and see my profile. So this is the course he is talking about, the Duragus is talking about, and I also have other courses here as well. And again, as I said before, the complete mobile ethical hacking course, this is the one I was talking about. This goes hand in hand. So if you're building an application, you have to know about cybersecurity up to a point. So that's why I have decided to put all of these courses in here. So anyhow, let me start by telling you about different kind of things or different kind of concepts you have to know when you go start working on your first mobile application. And I must say that I have seen thousands of my students starting from scratch and ending up like creating very good applications, creating like startups, and finding work and finding jobs and finding internships after they complete the course. So it's very possible some of the people mentioned that they have no previous information of mobile application or any programming language at all. It's totally fine, not only for my courses, but also there are some other very good courses on Udemy as well. So if you're keen on learning about mobile application, I believe you can do that just by taking a course or like a $10 course on Udemy, and you can create your application that has been on your mind forever. But there are a lot of ways to do that. There are a lot of ways to create your dreams. So I'm going to talk about those a little bit because this is the thing that I get asked most. So we have native application development on the left-hand side, and we have cross-platform application development on the right-hand side. So what I mean by native, I mean that we create that application specifically for a particular operating system. So, you know, we have two main operating systems in the world, iOS and Android. So Android is the leader. Not in the US, I believe. In US, I believe iOS has 50% market share or something like that. But in world, Android has more than 70, 80% market share. So Android is the leading operating system. Anyhow, eventually you're gonna have to deal with both of those because when you launch an app, you want your app on both sides of the platforms as well. So what I mean by native development, when you create an application with a native language, then it's going to be valid for only that platform. So there are native languages, programming languages for creating native mobile applications. For example, Kotlin and Java are used for creating native Android mobile applications. And Swift and Objective-C are the programming languages that we create mobile applications for iOS natively. Okay, so when you create a native application, then it means that you're writing for that particular operating system, and you cannot use that code in order to create another application in another platform. So if you want to build an app, then you're going to have to write it for Android, and then you're going to start it from scratch and write it for iOS as well. So this is the main disadvantage of working with the native application development. You're going to have to just write two applications, okay, to be on both platforms. But on the other side, on the cross-platform application development, we have Flutter, React Native, Xamarin, and Ionic, and they're actually created to build an application that works on both platforms. So it's kind of cool. And this is the main advantage of cross-platform mobile application development. So why do people choose native application development when we have that kind of advantage on the cross-platform, right? So main thing is performance. So iOS, take example, the iOS example. So Apple has its own programming language, Swift, okay? And they have their own operating system. They have their own phones. So everything is built to be synchronized. Everything is built to work perfectly with each other. So when you create an app with Swift, then you know that it's going to work perfect in iOS, in iPhones, in iPads, in Macs. So the performance is the real key here. So when you build an app with native application development, then it means that you're going to get a good performance out of it. So if you're building something like a banking application, or if you're building something like video streaming application, for example, where you need to make sure that performance is in place, then you're going to go for the native application development. And most of the companies that are big companies actually prefer this option because it's more costly, but it brings much more better performance in this area. So if you're a big company, then if you're gonna just create an application, then maybe you want to hire 10 mobile application developers rather than 7 or 8, but it's going to be much better in performance. Then you know that and you choose that. On the other side, if you're a startup, for example, then it doesn't matter if you have like 95% of the performance. Okay, so it doesn't concern you at all. Then you can go for the cross-platform. And while I'm saying that, there is a new technology called Flutter. This is very new compared to the other ones. And Flutter is a framework that uses Dart programming language, and it's created by Google. Okay, so Google is the owner of Flutter framework right now, and it actually has a very much like a better performance when we compare it to the other cross platforms. So if you want to build an application with cross-platform, then it's a way to go right now. You're going to get a good performance out of it. Of course, it won't be the same as using a native development, but again, it will be much better when we compare it to the React Native, Xamarin, or Ionic. So React Native was built by the Facebook, and Xamarin is actually kind of a Microsoft technology that uses C# and other Microsoft technologies as well. Ionic is actually old news right now, so it's not very preferred at this industry right now, but React Native is preferred, and Flutter is the new hot thing, new hot player over here. Most probably it's gonna take over this cross-platform world in the upcoming years. And if we look at the left-hand side of the things, we have Kotlin and Java for the Android development. So Kotlin has been selected as an official programming language for native Android application development in the late 2017. So it's relatively new as well. So it was like 3 years ago. But now it's the first preferred language of the Google. So they say that if you're gonna build an application, an Android application, then you're gonna go for Kotlin, okay? Because it has much better performance when we compare it with Java. And also it's much easier to work with. It's less code and it's very efficient. So I believe Kotlin is very suitable for people who want to start learning about mobile application. Okay, it's a very good language. And also, we have the same situation in iOS side as well. We have Swift and Objective-C. Swift is relatively new. Apple has launched Swift 5 years ago. It's an open source project, which we generally don't expect from Apple because they are closed many of the time, but this time they have released this project as an open source, and they have built the Swift application, Swift programming language, with the collaboration of developers around the world for 5 years. Now it's a very good language. It's very simple. It's very easy to learn as well. And they have this on their vision statement. They say that we want to build a programming language where people chooses for the first time they go into programming. So if you want to learn about mobile application development, again, Swift is for you. Objective-C is another thing that we actually see in the iOS development as well, but it's old news again. So many of the applications now use Swift, and many of the applications now use Kotlin if we're talking about native application development. So this is actually a brief summary that's what we can use for this mobile application, what kind of languages and options do we have in here. I don't want to get too technical. I want to just focus on the things that you should do when you try to learn about this stuff. But for the last time, if we have some experienced developers over here, I want to answer this question as well. So where is this thing going? The mobile application development is headed in a way that we're going to see Kotlin much more than Java in the upcoming years, and we're going to see Swift, of course, much more than Objective-C in the upcoming years, and we're going to see Flutter on the cross-platform development much more than other things in that side as well. And also, we're going to see this Swift UI thing. Okay, this is a real, like the latest technology that has been released by Apple in the late 2019. So this is a declarative framework, which means that you get to say, create me a text, create me an image, and it does that for you. And this has started to take over Swift as well, but it has its time. So Android also has now published something like similar to Swift UI, which is again a declarative framework called Compose. It only works with Kotlin as expected, and it's again a declarative framework. You say that create me a text, it creates a text, create me an image, it creates an image. So we're gonna see this kind of declarative thing much more in the upcoming years. But what I wanna focus on today is that since I have like 250,000 students online, I see and I experience the mistakes that students do when they actually start learning mobile application development. So I gathered all of these mistakes, and I want to actually tell you about them a little bit so that you can avoid making these mistakes. Maybe you are an experienced developer and you're not gonna like this part. However, if you're not, then you're gonna like it. So there are a lot of crappy, shitty information online. So if you just go over any forums or any debating channel, something like that, and if you ask for what is the first programming language that I should learn, many people discuss whether you should learn about Python or HTML. I don't know even what is the deal with the HTML. It's not even a programming language, but many people actually recommend start learning about HTML if you want to learn about any kind of programming language. Of course, it's not true. There is not only one answer to that question. So if you're into the mobile application development, then it doesn't make sense for you to learn about HTML or Python at all. Then it makes sense you to start with Kotlin or Swift. But again, there are a lot of shitty information, so better you stay away from it and just don't go for anything that you wouldn't be used for the rest of your life. And you have to follow the technology news. I'm sure that you have like a lot of resources for that in your own countries. So we have like many popular technology new websites or platforms here in Turkey and here actually in the US as well. I follow them as well. So you have to just follow the news. Again, if you see that Kotlin has been selected as the first programming language choice of Google, then you're gonna have to make sure that you learn it, right? If you just ignore this news, then you're gonna be outdated. And when you go to the interviewer will ask you if you know about Kotlin at all. So even if they don't use Kotlin, they will be using it in a couple of months or couple of years. They know that, so they want their employers to learn about Kotlin as well. So you're gonna have to follow the latest technology over here. So if you are just starting about learning about the programming languages, and this actually doesn't fit only to mobile application development, but all programming languages as well, you're gonna have to focus on the fundamentals. You're gonna have to just think long term. So this is one of the most popular mistakes that students do. I see it all the time. They don't even know what an object-oriented programming is. They don't even know the fundamentals of the programming language, but they want to know how to integrate advertorials or ads in their application so that they can make money. Even they create very bad applications or something like that, they want to integrate ads so that they can make money. Of course, this application won't make money, okay? If you build a real shitty app, no one will ever going to use it. No one will ever going to download it anyway. So you better focus on how to make your applications or your programming skills better before you think about the money. I really can assure you that you're gonna make a hell of a lot of money in programming or in mobile application, like within 2 years or something like that. But you have to make sure that you really know it, because it's a competitive skill as well. So when you go to an interview, many of the students or many of the applicants will also have the access to the Udemy courses or free Coursera courses or something like that. And they will try to bring their best to the table as well. So make sure you strengthen your core rather than focusing on the ad mob or the ad services of the Google or other platforms as well. So knowing less is actually same thing, like sometimes you know just much more, or you think you know much more than you should. You complicate things in a way that you just don't see the simple things. For example, if you follow the technology news, sometimes students see some kind of things like concepts like MVVM or MVC. These are software architectural patterns, okay? So we use those architectural patterns in order to create efficient and structural coding mechanisms. But sometimes students ask me if if they have to learn architectural patterns before they start even learning about the fundamentals of the programming language. Of course, you don't have to learn. Just don't focus on the complicated matters. Once you understand how computers work, once you understand how programming languages work, then you can move on to the other things as well. So sometimes students suffer from knowing too much, sometimes they suffer from knowing too little. Okay, you have to just focus on learning about the things in order. And I see this a lot as well. When a student actually starts learning about a programming language, they have to make a project, right? And I actually recommend this as well. So if you create a project from scratch on your own without getting any help, and by mean without getting any help from other people, of course you can get help from Stack Overflow or Google or Udemy, but you have to create a project from scratch yourselves so that you can know what kind of errors, what kind of situations that you find yourself when you do that. But sometimes students tend to choose very hard projects. For example, I've seen some of my students, like I believe 2 weeks ago, he said that he's learning about game development, and he said that for practice, I want to write my own gaming engine. So writing a gaming engine sometimes costs like a $1 billion project, okay? So it's not easy, you're just learning it. Don't focus on writing a game engine. Just write a hyper casual game so that you can put it on the App Store or Google Play so that you can see if people like your project. Just focus on hyper casual. Maybe in 10 years, you will be able to lead a group to write your own game engine. So don't choose projects that are too long or too hard when you first started. Just focus on very simple projects. And let's go to that side. So try to get familiarized with the concepts. So I get this message 10 times a day, every day. So I wrote the same code. It does not work. No one ever wrote the same code up until now. They don't write the same code because why? Because it's a completely different language than we used to. It's like learning a new language, like a new spoken language. If you want to learn about maybe if you want to learn how to speak Spanish, then it will take some time, right? Because there are like hundreds of thousands of vocabulary you don't even know. You're gonna have to learn all of them, and it's a completely completely different concept that you're not familiar with. So maybe you have to get familiarized with curly braces or semicolons. So, or the other parentheses that you don't use in a daily spoken language, but you generally use in the programming languages as well. So you have to pay attention to the details so that you won't like lose 5 hours of your time just to find where you missed the semicolon. Okay, so you have to focus on the details and you have to get yourself familiarized with these concepts. And this is very important as well. Ask the right questions at the right places. So we have like millions of free resources online, like Stack Overflow, GitHub, Google, okay? If you get an error message, if you just Google it, I'm pretty much certain that you're gonna have to, you're just going to figure it out, okay? Because somebody else would have already that issue and they have solved it and they will share it online. You're gonna see it a lot. But sometimes I see that people tend to go to the places they actually are familiar with, but it's not even related to programming at all. For example, I know a lot of people, they love to share comments on 9gag or something like that, and they are trying to find the solution on the 9gag or other kind of platforms online. Maybe 9gag is a too extreme example, but I know this happens. So just focus on Stack Overflow, okay? So whoever built the Stack Overflow, he is the angel of this world. So just focus on that. You will find your solution over there. So you're going to have to focus on the algorithm and fundamentals, as I said before. You're going to have to make sure that you understand the logic. So it's like there are a lot of free resources online to improve your algorithm skills as well. So you can make sure that you maybe just solve some kind of mathematical equations. So it's all about defining a problem and then just deconstructing the problem into smaller pieces and then solving them one by one, and then just making them all together to create one beautiful application, right? So you're gonna have to think analytical, and you're gonna have to focus on the fundamentals when you try to learn about any programming language, not only mobile application development. You have to read the documentation as well. So, for example, I have shown you this developer.android.com or developer.apple.com. So these are the websites for the mobile application developers. If you go over here, you're going to find everything that you're ever going to need about iOS application development, right? So if we come over here, we can see what's Swift, what's new in Swift, how to use it, and everything that you might think of. If you don't read it, then you're not going to learn it, because even if you find the best course or best teacher ever online, then maybe you're going to get like 40 hours or 30 hours of course, which of course does not include every subject that you're going to be facing when you go and become a professional developer. So you're going to have to make the peace with reading documentations and understanding what's all this about. Of course, this doesn't come in handy when you first start learning about mobile application, but when you build a confidence in yourself and when you start to understand what's being written over here. So let me go back. So if you don't read the documentation, I have seen a lot of people getting rejected from the App Store when they first develop their iOS applications, because iOS actually has every kind of rule that you shouldn't do or you should do if you want to place your app on the App Store, and no one even reads it, and they get rejected from the App Store, and then they revise their application and they just resubmit it as well. So reading the documentation doesn't only give you a way to understand the mobile application fundamentals, but also the policies as well. So there are certain rules that you should or shouldn't do, and they're all written out here. So be prepared to read a lot of documentation if you're going into the programming world. And if you're starting for the first time, do not try to learn everything at once, okay? So I see this a lot. So students tend to just determine some kind of programming languages out of blue, like Python, Java, C#, Swift, Kotlin, Angular, and they say that I'm gonna learn all about those. Yeah, maybe you can learn all about those. And I believe a senior programming or senior software engineer, whatever you may want to call it, uses like 4 programming language in average due to the research of GitHub or due to the research of Stack Overflow, I believe. So it's possible to learn 4 or 5 programming languages and be fluent with each of them. But I really suggest you complete one first. You understand what is it about, what are the fundamentals, and you become confident with one programming language, and the rest will come, because every modern programming language has some kind of similarities that you can obviously see and use it in your code, and it will be much more easier for you to learn something else once you complete the first thing. Okay, so don't rush into the things, just finish what you have started and then move on to the other programming language. Internship, I don't know the age over here, like the average age that we have right now, but if you're a student, then you're gonna have to do an internship because it will teach you a lot And not only for money, I would do it just for the experience as well, because you're going to see a lot of different things that you don't see in the courses, because you will see how a company operates and how they have built their own way of coding systems. Okay, every company has their own coding culture. They have their different kind of things that work on, and you're gonna have to be a part of that team in order to learn how this works in real life. Free resources are out there. So if you have an app idea and if you don't know how to code, then you're gonna have to Google it a little bit, because you can find a lot of free resources. You can get $10 courses from Udemy. And as I said before, many of my students actually succeed um, building applications, creating startups from scratch, and finding internships, finding jobs. I have like thousands of cases, successful cases over there. So I really suggest you go back there and just find some resources and determine some kind of designated hours for you. Like, I'm gonna dedicate my 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day learning about mobile application development. And you just follow that routine. And 1 year later on, you can just email me and say that, yeah, I know right now. I can just write the code and I have actually built my first application. I'm pretty certain about that as well. So this is another thing for the actually for the people that who want to create their own startups. They generally try to neglect the business side. So I have seen that three coders or three programmers come together and they build a very good company. Okay, they build a very good quality code. The idea is good, but no one even understands about the business side of the things. And I have seen them fail because they cannot get investment from the investors, because they do not have kind of like a business plan to make money. Okay, so if you don't know anything about digital marketing or how to do like presentation to the investors, you don't have to know, by the way, but make sure you have one person that knows this stuff in your team. Okay, just find a co-founder or something like that in your team to make sure that your startup actually makes money. And this, I believe this is the final slide. Yep, this is the final slide for me. And I believe this is the most important slide for me as well. So the title says it all. So do not work less than hours, but how many hours do you think it is? So maybe I can just make this, not everybody is using their cameras, but maybe you can do this on your own. You can think how much you work in 1 week, okay? How many hours? Like 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 50 hours. Just include the work hours if you're working, or include the study hours if you're studying, and include everything that is related to your job. If you're taking a course from Udemy, include it as well, okay? So make sure you find your working hours. How many hours do you work in 1 week? So if you're saying less than 20 hours, then it means that you're not doing anything at all, because it's very low, okay? If you're saying like 30, 40, or 50 hours, then you're like working in an average white collar working employee that works in a multinational company, and it's okay. Okay, many of the people work like that. But if you want to be something like an Elon Musk or something like that, okay, I have actually read this study that I believe I've seen in Forbes. They have interviewed the most influencer CEOs like Elon Musk or something, somebody like that, like 10 or 20 CEOs, and they have calculated their average working hours in a week, and it was 80 hours, 80. So 80 hours a week. They work 80 hours a week. Even they are billionaires. Okay, so I really suggest whatever you do, you start increasing your working hours. I'm not saying that you neglect your family or just don't do anything else rather than working. But again, we have seen successful programmers or successful startup creators work a lot compared to the other peers of their world. Okay, so if you're gonna remember anything from this presentation later on, remember that Elon Musk works 80 hours a week, and remember that you have different options to create mobile application. And I suggest starting with the native development and then moving to the cross-platform development, because you're gonna have to learn about the fundamentals of the iOS or Android operating systems in order to work efficiently with the cross-platform development as well. Many of the senior developers migrated to the Flutter, okay, but they were already senior developers. They already knew the fundamentals like a lot, okay? So this was the presentation. This was my presentation. Then we're gonna go to the Q&A section, and I believe I have seen we already have two questions in the chat, group chat. I'm going to read them if I can open the chat as well. Are there proven security advantages or weaknesses inherent in either native coding standards? Um, Actually, yes and no. The advantages, weaknesses. Now, when we talk about security, we don't have like a programmatic or systematic problem with any of the frameworks or any of the programming languages that we have discussed. Like we don't have this thing called like Kotlin sucks in security, or Java sucks in security, or Flutter is not good fit security. But they have their own individual libraries, they have their own individual SDKs specific to them. So when you develop an application, you're going to be working with a lot of libraries, maybe external libraries as well. So you're going to have to pay attention to those, okay? Having like a one programming language is not advantages over another in terms of security, but it may be if you just misconfigure the libraries or something like that. So many of the reliable libraries are in the native development side, like in the Swift or Kotlin and Java. But in the cross-platform, we have good libraries as well. Just make sure that you understand the consequences of using external libraries and make sure you don't misconfigure them. Is certification in Android helpful in career? Yep, it is actually helpful, but I'm pretty certain that this depends on the country that you live in. I know that it is actually a kind of a big deal in US because Google actually gives out this certification by themselves. They have this Android developer certification thing that you can take like an examination and you can get certified. Sometimes in some countries, they don't even care about this. I know in Turkey, nobody has this certification and nobody asks for this certification. But I know that it's valid in USA. I don't know if it's valid in Canada or Toronto. Maybe you can just like lighten me up on that a little bit. And I know that the cybersecurity, at least, it's very important to get certifications in all countries. Okay. So what are the security risks we are facing using open source platform? Like if we're just using an open source platform, we're gonna have to make sure that they don't have any kind of security issues or something like that. There are a couple of ways to do that. We can just examine the code one by one ourselves, okay, it's gonna take a lot of time. So if we are using an external library like an open source library, then we know that we're doing it for the time saving, right? So it will take too much time. Then the other risk is everyone will have the access to the source code. So if there is a security potential, like a security risk potential, then if someone finds it, then we're gonna see like thousands of people getting hacked. So what I do in this kind of situation, I really go for the most popular or most valid option. For example, in Android development, we have Retrofit, which is an external library. It's not owned by Google, but everybody uses it, like the whole world uses it. And we know it's safe right now, but we didn't even know it was safe maybe 5 years ago. But now it's known, and like millions of developers are using it. It's safe to use Retrofit. But if you're gonna use something like a very sensitive thing, like a payment thing, like if you're gonna get a payment out of some customer or like an individual, then I really suggest you just do the checking yourself, or just don't use the free things so that they don't create a security issue. So George asked that, what's the difference between app development and web development? They're not very far away from each other, like in theory, but the technologies and programming languages are very different. All of the things that I have shown you in the mobile application programming, they're not even be valid for the web application development. In web application development, you're gonna have to learn about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, Node.js, everything that you may think of. And the main thing is that front end and back end separation is much more valid in the web development side because they have like this scattered things, scattered frameworks, and like they have like a lot of frameworks. So no one will be able to understand backend and front end frameworks at the same time, like every of them. So they generally tend to specialize in the front-end development or back-end development. They have much more variance when we talk about frameworks, when we talk about programming languages, whereas we have some certain boundaries in the mobile application development. So is knowledge both Android and iOS is helpful in career? Yep, even if you're going to specialize in one area, so even if you're going to be an iOS application developer or Android application developer, I believe it's helpful to know the other side a little bit, because most of the time, if you're working for a company, you're an Android developer, and on the next desk, you will have your iOS developer. So you will receive a project. So you're going to write it for Android, and the other guy is going to write it for iOS, right? So you're going to have to actually work in like a synchronized way. So if you're going to do something, you better make sure that it's not completely irrelevant to the iOS. Okay, so maybe something is like not forbidden in Android development, but it's forbidden in iOS development. So if you do that, and if your iOS peer cannot do that, then you're going to have some problem, because you're going to have to revise your code because of the iOS application as well. So even if you're not going to be specialized in iOS or in Android, then I believe it's good to have some knowledge about it. Just take a course from Udemy and just watch it for like 40 hours. Maybe you don't even get to write it or practice it, but you will know the key concepts, and you will know what they are doing, what they are dealing with. Is it easy to be a freelancer with Flutter? Yep, it's easy to be freelancer with Flutter right now, because again, if somebody is going to hire a freelancer to make their dream come true, then it's most probably not going to be like a big bang or big multinational company. Okay, it's going to be like a startup or like a medium-sized business owner. Okay, and they're going to be okay with cross-platform development, and they're going to be they're gonna want like a lower price when they compare it with the native development. So they're really gonna be okay with the cross-platform. So if you're gonna be a freelancer, then it's wise to go for the cross-platform and learn about the Flutter as well. Okay, so let me browse this chat a little bit so that I can see if I have any question that I missed. Nope, I believe we don't have any other questions over here. So if you have any question, by the way, you can just ask it with the mic as well. So yeah, we have one from Terrence. Don't we have too many apps? If so, any ideas for solutions? Yeah, we have too many apps, and it's much more significant in the Android. iOS tries to actually limit these applications. If you submit an application to the iOS for the first time, it's very possible that you will get 10 or 15 rejections before you get accepted to the App Store. They are very keen on selecting the applications, and they are very keen on making the user experience in a better way right now. Android is on their way to there, and they're being much more pickier right now, and they're trying their best to limit these applications, but we have too many. I believe we will have a huge clearance of those in a couple of years. So they will say that if your application didn't get like 10 downloads in the last 2 months, then we're going to take it down, and they will get rid of it. This is only my yes, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we really need that. So, any other questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's kind of fuzzy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was having audio problems. Maybe I should put it in the chat.
Yeah, I have just heard that maybe you can just write it with the chat, but I didn't hear the rest. So, yeah, Arturo asked some question. What is a full stack mobile developer and how can be? So, full stack mobile developer isn't a very popular term, but it's going to be, I believe. So we have this backend thing where we deal with the servers, where we deal with the database. Like we just put our database into cloud, okay, so that we can reach it from anywhere, so that our applications, our users can interact with each other. So if you want to build a server, if you want to build an application, with a database, cloud database, with a server, with an API, then you're gonna have to know the backend things that you learned in the web application development, right? You're gonna have to create an API, you're gonna have to know how to host a server, how to create a database. So this is all backend stuff. So if you know about that, and if you already know about mobile application development, then you're a full stack mobile developer. However, in big companies or in software teams, they tend to just separate those things because this is a completely different kind of specialization area. Okay, they have their own language, they have their own frameworks. Of course, you can do it in a simple way. Okay, I can write an API, I know how to write it, but I cannot design like a very big database or a very big structure for a company that has like 80,000 employees working on them just for their own intranet. Okay, I don't know to that extent, but I can write a simple API. So maybe I'm a full stack mobile developer, maybe I'm not. So if you're working with a team, you're most probably gonna have someone that is dedicated on the backend things. But if you're working in a small team, maybe you're gonna have to learn it a little bit. Yeah, WeChat consolidates apps. So there actually, in the case of WeChat, there are a lot of other things to consider as well, like political and like the government of China or Alibaba has their own tools to consolidate everything, and they just want to have one kind of application that can gather all the user data in one application. I know that it's better to have less apps. Okay, if you want to use a Instagram, for example, if you want to use a photo sharing app, then you're gonna get like 1 million applications on the Google Play. Okay, we don't need that. Maybe we can just have like a 10 or 20 application. That will be more than right. So I believe they have to consolidate it as well. But there is a good way to do that and bad way to do that. A good way to do that is to draw a line and just get rid of all the passive applications and the malicious applications at once, in my opinion. So Manohar asked, what is the future of Android? The future of Android resides in the Kotlin, as I said before, because it's going to take over the Java. They don't want to work with Java anymore. Google doesn't want Java anymore. And again, the Compose framework and the other things that we see is already introduced only for Kotlin. So slowly, not actually slowly, they're gonna move it to the Kotlin fast because, as I said, it's been only 3 years they announced that they're gonna include the Kotlin in their programming languages, and now 60% of the applications are now in Kotlin in Google Play. This is the actually, this is a success story. We didn't even see that kind of thing in the Swift and Objective-C conversion as well. So most of the time, you're not going to use Java from now on. You're going to use Kotlin. Okay, so the future of Android is Kotlin. Future of Android may be the declarative frameworks like Compose. We don't know yet because we haven't even tried it yet. But it looks like that. So declarative frameworks, MVVM, and Kotlin. Okay. So any other questions? Okay, DevSecOps concept be applied to mobile app deployment in the same way it applies to web apps. Again, yes and no, because in the web applications, we have different concepts. Like we run our own server, we host our own application. In the mobile application, you don't actually get to host your own application. It's hosted by App Store or Google Play, and it's run in the mobile application, more mobile device. Okay, so the platforms that we interact with the technology are different for the mobile application and the web application. So it's much more important in the web application. However, it can be applied to the mobile application in a way, right? Because we have our own servers here there as well. So it's a very important concept. So mobile BE technology. So I assume you're talking about Bluetooth technology, or you're talking about something else. A backend technology. Sorry, I didn't get the abbreviation over here. So in the mobile backend technology, we have different kind of alternatives over here. We have Firebase, for example. I assume you have heard it if you have taken any course or if you have worked with any kind of programming languages before. So we have like these ready things for a backend like Firebase, Parse. They're very good to start with. But again, if you're going to go professional, then we don't have that option very much. Okay, so if you're a bank or if you're an e-commerce website, then you're not going to use Firebase at all. You're going to create your own server. Okay, maybe it's a MySQL, MySQL server, or any kind of server that you might think of. But there are a couple of ways to work with the SQL as well. First, you're gonna create a back end. You're gonna write your own SDK to connect to the mobile application from the backend or vice versa. Or you're gonna create an API to do this kind of synchronization between the application and the backend and the server. So if you're going to work within the industry in the backend, you're gonna see most of the time, like the 90% of the time, they create their server like MySQL server and they write an API. And as a front-end developer or as a mobile application developer, you work with those APIs to connect and communicate with the server. That's how it operates in the industry. Okay. So yeah, so again, I misunderstood the question of Terence. So do I see any future to replace apps or coding? Okay, I don't know. I'm not gonna be like too conservative here. If I say there is no way that it cannot replace anything like something like that, if it replaces everybody is going to make fun of me like a couple of years later. But again, I don't think it's going to replace, but I don't want to speak too, like I don't want to be too brave about it. So Kotlin and Flutter is recommended to be best as of now, but we know, well, we knew IT keeps updating almost every year and frequently. Yeah, you're right. As programmers, all we need to grasp as well. Yeah, not like nurses always are. Yeah, yeah. So you're very right about that. It's yeah. Sometimes I complain about this as well. Yeah, because I teach about these things and I get to create like a 40 hours of course, and they change the codes every 6 months. Then I have to reshoot everything for the 40-hour course. So I hate it, but it's the truth, okay? And it's going to be truth. It's going to be in our lives, and I believe it's gonna actually be faster, okay? Because we haven't seen this kind of speed before, okay? And like 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, we learned about things, we have learned about some kind of technologies, and we use them for years, okay? Right now, we learn about things and we don't even use them for 2 years. Maybe in future, it will be faster. And I believe it will be faster. The technology was never this fast, and it will be never this slow again. So this is a saying, right? And we're gonna see it in the programming side as well. But if you learn about, and if you learn about the at least the fundamentals of one programming language, if you learn about how computers work, then you're gonna get adapted to those other things in a minute. Okay, I was actually making applications in Java for Android. Okay, and they introduced Kotlin, and in 1 month, I just dropped everything about Java and moved to Kotlin. Because you get easily adapted to the new technologies, but you're gonna have to learn, right? I had to read all the documentations. There was no course regarding to Kotlin at that time in Udemy, so it was hard. But it just took me like a couple of days to start writing and be fluent with it within like 1 month. So it's going to be harder even later on, even than right now. But I believe if you just learn it once, then you're going to make it nice and warm later on. Okay. Is there any other questions?
Okay, maybe if there are no questions, maybe we can wrap it up. I will send a link to the form. So please fill this form, even if you don't want the free coupons. It will give us some feedback and help us improve the next meetings. Atil, this was a very interesting presentation. I'm developing mobile since last 10 years, and I think I learned so many things today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was great. Yes.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. And again, thank you very much for attending this meeting at that early time in your countries. So it's 6 p.m. for me. I'm gonna go for some drinks right now, and you're just gonna go for maybe breakfast or something like that. Thank you very much for joining me.